each Friday here in our studio, dear listeners. And tonight with Rafi Petrosyan
and the lovely Ina MK.
We are having a guest, a very extraordinary guy that is going to tell a lot of stories about how he moved here to Armenia without any Armenian roots.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a trip, right? Because he doesn't have any of that Armenian connection, or at least no Armenian blood, right?
No blood.
All right.
We'll find this out soon. Andrew Mollica. By the way, is this the right way to pronounce it?
Yeah, it's perfect.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Ina, how are you doing?
I'm fine, totally.
Yeah?
Missed our studio.
Did you?
Yeah.
What's new? What have you been up to?
A lot of things. I don't know, just personal stuff.
Nice.
And you?
Anything
new?
Anything new? I don't know if there's anything new going on, but I'm taking care of my back. I don't know if you guys remember. I was saying my back was hurting last week.
How is it?
It's good. I did not see Hosmeek.
No,
I did not go see Hosmeek, unfortunately. Maybe I will still, but I've just been laying down the entire time. That's my form of healing.
That's your Hosmeek.
Right. It's not me being lazy. It's me just trying to be better, trying to heal myself.
Oh, don't justify yourself. So, Andrew, one of the first questions, we ask. No, first of all, where does this last name come from, Mollica? Because it sounds a little, I don't know, maybe Italian.
Perfect, yeah, it is Italian.
Yeah?
Yeah, my dad's family is from Sicily. So,
really?
That's
Have
where...
you been there?
Nope. This was my first time out of the U.S., actually.
Oh.
Do you guys have mob connections in Sicily?
Probably.
Nothing you'd like to share on the radio?
They weren't exactly wealthy people, so they had to probably find other means.
Have you watched Once Upon a Time in America?
I have not. I don't know what that is.
Was that with Robert De Niro?
It's a movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what brought you to Armenia? Andrew, confess. Are you a spy or something?
Right.
Why? What is it?
Actually, that's funny. My girlfriend's mom is convinced that I am a spy. And that's no, but
what do you tell her though when she says that you're a spy?
Actually, so my girlfriend lives in Belgium right now. So her mom said something about me being a spy, and I heard, but she was pretty convinced I wasn't trying to spy on some Belgians or Armenians that live in Belgium. So I think we're safe.
Is that the reason why she left for Belgium?
It was, yeah. She was running away.
Okay, I see. And now you live with her mom.
But my official reason for coming to Armenia is for my research project.
Mm-hmm.
I study linguistic landscape. So I study language as it's presented in the public space. So that was me walking around. We ended up...
Whoa, that's very heady.
Linguistic
That's very
landscape.
heady. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a lot of fun.
break it down for us. What is that exactly?
Sure. So, the project started. We're gonna have a little history lesson for a minute, I guess. But
Sure,
the
please.
project
Sure,
started
go ahead.
because, through learning Armenian, which is the start of my Armenia adventure, walking into a language class on the first day, and the professor's like, "Barev," and I'm like, "I have no idea what you're saying."
Just smile and wave.
Smile, sweat, and wave. I was panicked. But yeah, so I took language, and I became very interested in Latino Hayaran. So like when people write in transliteration was very interesting to me because my background is in cognitive science. There's a lot of things going on with Latino Hayaran because you're not getting like the native script of the language, and these things that you build when you're reading, you have connections to the letters that help you process. And when you read transliteration, you actually sound things out in your head, basically. So you now have to process phonetically, and then you kind of process the conversation almost in your head. So you're using two different steps of like processing the language in order to read transliteration because you don't get the visual orthographic cues from the letters.
Holy! Oh my God!
Stop for a minute.
I understood the word letter in there. What's the difference between transliteration and translation?
Translation would be like cup is bajak, but bajak is spelled ba-a-j-a-g, I hope.
Yeah, in English letters.
So if you write it with B-A-Z-H-A-K, that would be transliteration.
So this is the
I see. So like
KD Kadwin, that program which has the typewriter.
I don't know about this actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is this?
It is when you type, like when we type texts in Word.
Yeah.
Well, you change the fonts like Armenian or Russian or English. There is also the phonetic and the typewriter option.
So it doesn't autocorrect all your mistakes.
No, it's when you press, for instance, R, like on the keyboard.
Uh-huh.
In Russian, it also writes down R, but but the right keyboard is not. Well,
these are all
Not
questions
important.
that have come up throughout my research because there are like 6 different kinds of Armenian keyboards because
Yeah.
there's typewriter, legacy, phonetic, Eastern, Western. There's one other one, I think.
phonetic Unicode.
Yeah, and then you have Unicode and ASCII that cause a lot of problems, and the fact that Cyrillic was changed first when like technology started advancing and all of these things. So they're very, very interesting
Wow.
little things. So anyways, I really like transliteration. I thought it was very interesting. And it's very common in Los Angeles, especially to see transliteration because most people are heritage speakers, and a heritage speaker is someone who speaks a lot of times heritage speakers actually learn that language as their first. So it's almost as if they were going to be native, but they don't acquire it in a native way. So in America, it's hard to acquire Armenian as your native language because when you walk outside, unless you live in Glendale, and even then, you're going to hear a lot of English and you're going to interact in English and you're going to most likely go to school in English. And even if you go to Armenian school, it's maybe not your native language at that point because you still have this huge influx of English that really takes over the majority of your life.
Could it ever be considered a native language if you're living in another country? Like, could it ever be a native language in America?
I mean, these are like really hard questions that you have to ask. For example, I have a friend that I took a class with who's from Iran, who then speaks Persian, Armenian, and English all very well. And he moved when he was 14, I think. So he was rather old. So he has like a weird time when he moved, and he has a lot of experience. And in Iran, the community is very close knit, so they speak a lot of Armenian. So like, which one is his native language? It's very hard to say. And this actually comes into another part of the research, and this is what I really like about the cognitive aspect of it is. Like a lot of people think of like bilinguals as like being a monolingual and a monolingual, and then you smash them together and now you have a bilingual. But there is no bilingual in this world pretty much, besides people who like maybe study language for like their profession and they like really, really do fully have that language. That is 2 monolinguals in one, because your language exists in domains. So for example, like this applies to everybody, even for me now. There are things that I do that are Armenian, and like the Armenian words are what come to me first, and I have these words because of the domain and the things that I'm doing. A lot of people, it's like their home life, they talk with their families in Armenian, these sorts of things.
For instance, I speak both Russian and Armenian in my family, and it's like my second native language.
Yeah, exactly. And like there are things that you're going to probably always want to say in Russian, and that's just because that's like natural. And so you're not really 2 monolinguals. You speak 2 languages, but in some ways you're separated at some points. There's holes in each one. So these like kind of are all the questions that come up, and there's no answer to it. There's no way to define
Seems
who
like
is.
A psychological, episode.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about? You're not monolingual, Ina. You're just 2 people inside of you.
It's always interesting to tell someone who thinks that they're like a native speaker of Armenian, for example, that like you're probably not a native speaker. You're a heritage speaker, which is, in my opinion, even a cooler thing. Not that it matters. You can be whatever you want. To be honest, I don't care what you call yourself, but there is kind of a difference in how you get it. For example, heritage speakers do have a lot of traits like native speakers, though. Like, for example, if you ask me a question about grammar in English, I would have a harder time asking you than if you asked me a question about grammar in Armenian. But someone who's a heritage speaker of Armenian would have just as much trouble, most likely, as I would for English, because they acquired the language more naturally through like social involvement and these sorts of things.
This is what happens a lot, by the way, actually. While interacting with Russians, for instance, they often make a lot of mistakes in their even everyday Russian because they haven't learned it the way we have learned it at school. Just like with English, London is the capital of Great Britain, etc., etc. So yeah, but we'll come back in a little advertisement break, and Andrew will tell us more about our own multilingual nature. Stay tuned, and you can watch and listen us live on www.radiovan.fm. You can also write comments or write to our page, and as well as download our application and listen to our show anywhere you go. This is Homesick at Home English speaking show. Stay tuned. And some time to change our...
Well, we need to change that because I'm not Stephen Oxner.
Yeah.
So,
Rafi Petrosian.
yes, that's me.
Or Petrosian.
But yeah, however you want to say it. Or Rofi.
Rofi.
Rofi Petrosian.
Rolf. Hey, Rolf. How
Yes?
you doing? Are you as confused as I am
Totally.
after the
Totally. I have no
after
idea.
the mono speech of our
Yeah, because I didn't understand it. The monolinguist. Monolinguist.
It's
Monolingual.
stereo linguist, I think.
The stereo
That's what it is.
coming at you from both sides.
Or an orchestra linguist. A quartet.
Okay, so
A
you're
trio. Okay.
you're studying Armenian, and you walked into the Armenian class. But what even made you decide to walk into that Armenian class in the first place? You know?
Well, it is required to study foreign language to graduate from a university in
Oh,
California.
really? Of course. That's such a common foreign language for California.
Yeah, naturally. Well, in California, I could see it being that way.
Well, in Los Angeles, yes, it is.
There's a big diaspora of Armenians.
Yes.
Have you ever spoken to any Armenian people?
I did. I actually ended up moving about 15 minutes away from Glendale my last year, so I was able to use my Armenian. And then I did date an Armenian girl whose grandma didn't speak English, so that was a good chance to use a little bit.
Now you used this Armenian girl to learn
It
language.
Ooh.
that was the entire reason that we got together. I needed help with my homework, and it was just convenient to
Does
date
she
her.
know that?
Did you move to Glendale to be surrounded by the Armenian community down there?
I moved to Sherman Oaks-ish area, which is really close to Glendale. It's just a freeway. Well, everything's a freeway away in LA. But I moved because my roommate started a brawl in my kitchen a few days before class was supposed to start. So I decided to move out because I didn't really enjoy having to choke one of my roommates until they stopped fighting.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, naturally. That
Yeah,
kind of shit happens.
so-
I mean, that kind of stuff happens, right?
That kind of okay. We are allowed to curse on air, but a little, it's like the percentage of maybe 3 or 1 or something like that. No,
One
no.
per hour? Is that how it...
One
One per
per
person? Or, I mean,
I
how is
I
this
hope I get
measured?
at least one because I'm gonna need it in a little bit.
Okay, go ahead. I want to talk about it.
So, but still, how did Armenian come up?
Yes, so I took Spanish in high school, and that was a waste of time. I don't know any Spanish anymore.
I did too. I took 3 years of Spanish, and I can't really say anything other than taco, burrito.
I'm in the same boat. So when I was looking at the languages, Spanish is a big one. I decided I didn't want to redo it because I knew the very first class I would probably be bored because it's very low level, but I wouldn't, if I didn't pay attention, then by the time I got to the second one, I'd be
Totally.
in bad shape to pass that class. It's like, maybe let's stay away from Spanish, see what we can do.
But it's so easy. I think.
I really don't like when people say that kind of stuff.
You also,
Rob, you don't know Armenian perfectly yet? It's so easy. I'm like, oh, God.
Well, I wouldn't say that about Armenian. though.
see, and I think Armenian is not that hard of a language to learn because it's very regular. But it's challenging because it's so different than English, and it takes a long time to start thinking about thinking in Armenian.
No, I'm pretty sure that his great grandma was an Armenian.
I
think
tried.
so?
I really
It's
tried because I was trying to be able to
genes,
come here.
It's impossible to say that Armenian is an easy language without having the genes.
This could totally be false, but I thought I read somewhere that the people in Sicily came from Armenia.
I thought everybody came from Armenia.
There you go. See?
He's the one.
Good, yeah.
Would you be our next president?
Please no.
Okay.
If you were president,
I was
okay.
just
let-
suggesting.
wait. I want to ask one of our weird questions. Then, if you were president of Armenia for a day, what would you do? What would you change?
What
would-
animal would you be?
Or as president?
I don't know if I should say what I would. I might get arrested. If I could change something as president, well, The most pressing issue in my life is the fact that the traffic in the Haraparak roundabout is terrible. So when I take the 63 bus home, it takes like 10 extra minutes because there's traffic. I know Armenia has a lot bigger issues than that to deal with, but I'm kind of selfish and I'd really like to fix that so I can get home a little faster.
What would be the solution? Have a guy with a whistle out there just blowing blowing his whistle? Because I find those guys just blowing their whistle for no reason. They're not even directing traffic. They're just blowing that whistle. You know?
I have no idea how you fix traffic in Armenia. Like, I think probably we could go really far back and start with driver education. That would probably be like a really good place to start because I think a lot of people die because like driving is so bad here. So fortunately people don't go very fast, so it's not that bad. But I mean, I've seen tons of, like I've seen an accident every single day I've been here for 8 months. So I don't know how people survive. And I'm from LA and I think driving here is terrible. So
yeah. So you change the traffic.
People get used to everything. You will get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, once
Don't worry.
I saw a marshutka get T-boned by like another car, and I was like, "This is Armenia." Like that's just the way it is. The poor people were coming through the front door because the big sliding one got smashed in.
Oh
so like,
my God.
you have all these like old ladies that were like getting
big
out.
dadiks,
So considering all these stories, Andrew, have you ever had moments of regrets for coming to Armenia?
Absolutely. I like didn't leave my apartment for a week during the summer, and I watched all 6 seasons of Game of Thrones in 1 week.
Nice.
Like that is 60 hours of television in 1 week.
Time well spent.
Yeah. Like I hated this place. I did not want to be here.
Why? Why?
You know, it's the expat blues, right? Like I don't want to give away too much from what I'm writing because maybe people won't read it after that, and Repat might be a little upset with me because they're paying for it. So
That's honest.
But I'm writing articles about the transition that I went through, and I think a lot of people that I've seen go through as well when you move as an expat or a repat or whatever you are. And you kind of go through that touristy phase, and then you go through you decide to do it and you're insane, and then you go through the touristy phase, and then you like go through that phase where you don't want to accept that you don't like it, but you don't like it, but you're still trying to be a tourist and enjoy it, and then you're just like, oh man, this is awful, I hate it here, and then you're depressed.
And then you understand that there are two domains, okay?
There are two domains, yes.
Inside that you have to accept and be what you are.
Well, and that's kind of the end of it, right? Is the way to get over like being depressed about living somewhere is understanding like everywhere kind of sucks sometimes. Like I didn't like living in LA either, but
optimistic.
it was
Everywhere.
Everywhere
sucks.
but it does, right? Like, well, that's my point is that you could move
Eeyore.
anywhere in the world and you could find something that's bad about it, or you could move somewhere in the world and you can make it the place that you want to live. And that's what it took me realizing was that
So
like
Andrew made Armenia. Full stop.
I made my
it.
own Armenia.
What was that lowest moment? Do you remember that?
Can we talk about it after our break?
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys. Stay tuned. This is Homesick at Home with Andrew Malika, who has stories about how much he hates Armenia. Stay tuned.
Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Yes,
We're back.
we're back. And we found out some stories about Andrew having some problems at certain certain places where he was trying to get a job, and then
Yeah, trying to follow the rules and do
Yeah,
everything
all the
lawfully over here.
papers. And the social card story. So
Yeah.
here it goes.
Yeah, so
We want to hear it on air.
yeah, perfect. So Armenia recently did change some laws, which has caused a lot of changes, and I actually do appreciate it because the changes are to help people not bribe other people. So that is a good thing, like it's progress. But unfortunately, when you're fixing a broken system, like things always fall through the cracks. And being the like 2% of people who live in Armenia that's not Armenian, like I am a crack. So
You crack us up. This is one of the cases when foreigners know the laws better than we do.
Right.
yeah, so I wanted to get residency so I could stay here long term. And to get residency, you pretty much have to get a job or be a student or marry. So, I forgot to tell this part of the story. I went to the Ministry of the Diaspora. They're not supposed to help me, but they're polite. They did. And we went to the legal department, and this guy's talking and helping me and whatever. And the lawyer looks over at me and she's like, you know, it would be the best if you just married someone from Armenia. My official legal advice was to marry an Armenian person, like not a joke.
And you said, oh, okay.
So So I was like, it's not exactly an option. Can we look into some other things? So we looked into like getting the job. So
what's the name of your girlfriend?
My girlfriend's name is Meline.
Meline, are you listening to this right now? Okay, keep going.
You trying to get him in trouble?
We talked about it. She's a little far away right now.
Does she know that? Okay, go ahead.
So I interviewed. One of the places I interviewed at was PixArt, and they were interested in hiring me. So we were going through the process, and they asked if I had a social card, which I didn't have because I couldn't get one yet, or I didn't know I couldn't get one, but I hadn't gotten it. So they're like, try to get the social card. So I go to Passport Saigon to try to get a social card, and they tell me that I need residency in order to get the social card. So I go to Ovir, and I'm like, I need residency so I can get a social card so I can get a job. And they're like, but you need a job to get residency. So I fell into this circle of not having anything to have everything. So then I went back to the job, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't get the social card. And because PixArt does things like very officially, and they have a specific way that they need to do it for themselves, they weren't able to like write a job contract without me having the social card, so I wasn't able to be hired.
So how many times did you go to each place?
Yeah, I'm sure you know Ovir very
finally
intimately.
Yeah, this was quite an affair of going around, and like I felt bad calling them, and then they even tried calling Ovir, I think, at one point, and they couldn't get any answers either. I mean, the people at Ovir are very, very helpful, as we all know, so it's very easy to extract information from that office. They really do like to talk
Tongue
to you.
firmly in cheek, as he says that.
So we went through this whole process, and so at the end, they just couldn't even move forward with me. Fortunately, I was able to find another company who didn't need the social card first, so they were able to write a contract that Ovir accepted. So Ovir is processing my paperwork now. Hopefully everything will be okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. They called me the other day, and the guy, I was also picking up the little, I don't know, it's a Russian word that they use, the little chip for your door though. That like when you have the security thing.
Electronic
yeah, it's
signal.
a fob, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what it's called.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Whatever. So anyways, so I was trying to pick that up, and Ovir calls me, and I thought it was those people calling me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get the chip for my thing, and they were really confused, but he didn't speak English. So he called my boss, and they took care of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird system. I mean, it's a catch-22. You cannot work here until you have that social card, that social number, and you can't get the social number without residency, and you can't get residency without working. So someone has to give, like.
But once you get it, it's that's where the paradise starts.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Everything will be better as soon as I have that.
So speaking of paradise, I still am curious. You said that you would have your highs and your lows, and you went through that period, that original period when you were first here. Things were not so bright, and like
the Game of Thrones period.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones time.
Just to clarify, things were great, and then things were really, really awful. Right. So part of that was the group of friends that I made. They all left because they were all birthwriters, so they were here for 3 months.
Oh yeah, that revolving door of
which is why I
volunteers that come
don't
through.
really hang out with birthright people anymore. I hate to say it because they're like, a lot of them are great people. I've made great friends, but it sucks to build a relationship with someone for 3 months and then they leave, and like now you don't have that friend anymore.
Right. And
so
for those of you that don't know, like Birthright's this program that brings over diaspora over here to Armenia to come volunteer. But they usually only stay for a couple weeks, maybe a few months. There's the odd few that come over for a longer period of time.
Even sometimes. But
Rafi, have you heard that joke? A person goes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, I get attached to people so easily." And the doctor says, "Oh, the psychologist is the next door." "Doctor, please don't leave me." "Birthright, please don't leave me."
That's it.
You mentioned Repat Armenia. Yeah, we have really good friends working there, and we would like to hear your story connected with Repat. What do you do? How you ended up meeting them, and what's the story?
Well, I contacted Repat originally when I was trying to move to figure out a lot of information. Again, being in the crack of not being Armenian and trying to come to Armenia, there are lots of things that you can't figure out. For example, normally, like, if you want to come to the United States for vacation, you can't come with a one-way ticket because they think that you're not going to leave.
Right.
However, I was doing research. I kind of wanted to stay here. I had no idea. I didn't want to buy a ticket and cancel it, so I wanted to come with a one-way ticket. And it says that if you can show like that you have enough money to buy a ticket, like things should be okay. So I was trying to figure out if I need like maybe a document with like some bank statement, whatever. There's no information. So I contacted a bunch of different people. Repat tried to help me. They were having a hard time because it's not clear. I contacted the embassy here and I went to the consulate in Los Angeles. And they actually put me in a room with the guy who runs the place. And I asked my question and he looks at me like seriously and he's like, relations with Armenia are pretty good with America. Like, it should be okay. Like,
wait, I don't get it. For you to buy a one-way ticket to Armenia?
And show up without having any proof of anything. Which it was. It was totally fine. No one said a word to me. But, like, that was my official advice from the guy who runs the thing is, it should be okay.
Bless you.
So I showed up with the one-way ticket. But
I had the same problem, by the way. Like, I bought a one-way ticket to Armenia, and at the airlines they said we can't let you board because you need to show proof that you're not going to just go and stay there.
Yeah, and that's the other issue. Some airlines care more too. So I called some of the airlines. I ended up flying Qatar, and they didn't say anything to me. But some of the other ones were like very strict about it. They wanted that you couldn't do it. You couldn't just buy the one-way ticket.
Yeah. So, so I had to go online. Luckily, I had my laptop with me. I had to go like spend 15 minutes, buy another ticket to leave Armenia, show them proof of this ticket, and then finally they let me board.
Oh wow!
And then you canceled it?
No, I just chose a nice destination. So after 5 months of being here in Armenia, I took off to England.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, to go visit my dad. My dad lives in England. Anyway,
London is the capital of do you do any sports here? Because you mentioned in your bio that you really love sports.
Yeah, here I don't do anything like that, unfortunately. I think that's part of the thing. I tried to start like getting back into shape here, but it's kind of hard. Gyms are a weird thing here still. They're like pretty expensive, especially for Armenia standards.
They're really expensive.
They're not like the ones that I found, they're not that big, or they're open on weird hours. Like one opens at 9 a.m., which makes it really hard to go before work.
Mm-hmm.
So
nothing happens here before 9 a.m.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I was looking for apartments, we called the guy at 10 a.m. and he's like, "Call me back at 12."
I'm still asleep.
Yeah, he was not happy with us. But yeah, so that is actually one thing that I should, like, if I'm committing to living here long term, which that's what I want to do, I think that'll be like the next big step is getting into something like that. So
what, just going to the gym, or are you more of a sports person?
I mean, I prefer to not just like, I mean, I like it all. I like being active, but like, yeah, I mean, now that I kind of know you work at the Rock Gym, I think that we could maybe
Boulder Town.
And we have an advertisement break, so
I just did one.
You started it. We'll come back in a short break, so don't leave us. We have a lot of things to speak yet. Stay tuned.
Radio.
So, Andrew, I'm afraid to ask you, but would you marry an Armenian girl?
I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't. I don't know why it would be a problem to or to not, but I mean, I guess we'll kind of see how things go in the current situation, and I'll get back to you guys in a little while.
You're a real diplomat.
But do you get asked that a lot?
Oh my god, every time I get into a taxi.
Are you married?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a question about taxis.
Oh, I could write a book
us?
About taxis.
Yeah, please, because everybody, it seems like every foreigner especially has funny stories connected with taxis. So can you please tell us?
Right. Well, I'll hit like
most
some of the
funny.
checklists of the taxi things. I have a couple of really quick ones. So I was staying in Tairov, which is just like, it's near Parakad, like the airport area. So far enough that I'm not walking and like I am not taking a marshutka from Tairov. So I would try to take taxis. So the first time I tried to take it by myself, I was going to Impact Hub, which is really close to Republic Square. So I'm like, great, I'll tell him to go to Republic Square. I know how to walk from there. Life will be good. It's the biggest place in the city. So I get in and I'm like, Republic Square. And he's like, what? I'm like,
what is this Republic Square you speak of?
So I was like, oh, maybe if I put like a little Armenian accent on it, he'll get it. And he had no idea. And I didn't know the word Haraparak at that time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm like, Gentron? And he's like, okay. So we kind of start driving in the right direction. And then as soon as we get like kind of past the brandy factory over that little bridge or whatever, he's like, here? And I'm like, no, like we need to keep going. But I didn't know anything. I'd been here for 1 week. The only thing I could remember was that there's the big fountain in Republic Square.
Right.
So like every time he would look back at me, I would just keep pointing, and I'm like, like this, and then this guy has no idea. Like Kentron is such a big area, this poor man. And so finally, I was like Mets Jur, and I go like this with my hands, like to show him the fountain.
And he took you to Lake Seva.
No, he absolutely knew exactly what I was talking about. We drove straight to the fountain after that. I couldn't believe it. I know he went home and he made fun of me with his family. It was like the best way I could figure out how to get where I was going. And then I realized the Marriott was right there, which would have been a great thing to tell him about. But yeah, so I got to the Metsjur and I found my way to my meeting.
Metsjur means big water for English-speaking listeners, to make it more clear.
So yeah, and then like they don't know when I say opera, I have to say opera. That one's always fun. But the getting married thing, they always ask how long have you been here? Because I always say I don't speak Armenian or I don't speak it well, and then they're like, you speak it fine. They're like, how long have you been here? And I'm like, I've been here. They're like, are you gonna stay? I'm like, I kind of want to. And then of course the next question is, are you married? And then I'm like, no, I'm not married. Like life will be okay. Thanks, I'm okay. And then they're always like. How do you say it? Like amus nanas manas. Like that's what, like, every single one of them says it. So like just marry someone and you'll stay. Like,
why is that? Like you've had like a couple of Armenian girlfriends, right?
Yeah, round 2. We're trying again. I should not have said that. I'm gonna take it for that one.
We'll shut down the broadcasting for Belgium for now. Andrew, so what do you think about Armenian women?
I have
think before answering.
No, I have very mixed opinions on some, like, or not opinions, but views, I guess, of like what I've seen, because one of my, like, on the first week of being here, the first 3 days actually, there was a wedding in Tairof, which means that everyone's going. So I was going, even though I was jet lagged and very, very sick. And so one of my friends that I was staying with, her cousin, I think it was, came over to try on a dress because she didn't have something nice to wear. But she's a little bit taller than my friend, so the dress was, I mean, like, still, like, knee length-ish or whatever. And, like, she tries it on, and it looked fantastic on her. Like, I thought she looked really good. And the mother-in-law is sitting on the couch, and she, like, does that, like, thing. And then she's like, go show my son. And then she goes outside for a couple of minutes, and she comes back in crying, takes off the dress, and goes home. So like this was like a really hard thing to watch. Like I called my professor, like I was so mad. I'm very close with my professor. I didn't just call her and be like, yeah, I need help with this. But like we were talking and I just like I couldn't believe it. But then at the same time, Armenia has one of the most like mixed gender IT fields in the entire world. Like it's almost 50-50, and that's like unheard of in like most places. In the US, it's like 10% female in like IT. So you have this very big contrast in Armenia of like, especially when you're comparing Kentron to like the other areas too, it gets very different, and you have these weird things where, you know, I don't know how to take it, because in some ways it's fantastic and in some ways it's terrible, and like the terrible ones kind of stick in your mind more, I think, sometimes, and it's very easy to focus on that. But I try to remember like it's not all of it, you know what I mean? Like everyone is like it's a different situation. So yeah, I like Armenian women, like I don't know, they're women just like everyone else, right? They're all different. They have their own things, but I think they're pretty great overall. A lot of them are very strong-willed. I think they can take a lot.
Yeah, I feel like the women here are driving this country over
question, but you had something nice at the end, so wrong answer. Okay, Rafi-chan, I thought you had a question that I interrupted. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just wondering why is it always do they ask about whether you're married or not? I mean, what is that?
Because that's very important. Family.
I wrote an article that kind of got some heat, actually, about marriage, like getting married being a team sport in Armenia. I don't know, maybe you guys saw it, or some people were very upset by it. And it was, I think because it was satirical and it was in English, and I think some people didn't catch it. And so they thought that I was being serious about some of this stuff, but they were all real stories about getting married. But like, even at the bank, for example, I was exchanging money before I was going to Europe. And the woman, like, hears that I'm American, and, like, the other teller from the other side rolls her chair around. She's like, are you married? And then, like, kind of, like, looks over across the bank to this, like, girl that's my age, and, like, is kind of, like, going like this. And I'm like, what is this? So. This is Armenia.
What are 3 things you'd change about Armenian mentality? This is what was coming next, I think.
Punctuality is a big one for me. And I like and I don't like it. I like that things can can change and like you can enjoy yourself more sometimes, and that's a great part. But I think there are situations where punctuality is more important, and I think in that, like, if we could just blend it, you know what I mean? Like, maybe bring in a little bit more of like a punctual business aspect, but like, and still enjoy each other socially as we do. I think that was like the perfect way. So that'd be punctuality. You know, honestly, still traffic, and not just traffic, but like driving and roads in general, because Armenia is such a small place, but it's so hard. Like, you can't get from one side of Armenia to the other, like in a day, really. It's very hard if you need to take like a bus or a train or something, because there's just no good ways to do it. And this is such a beautiful place to explore, but it takes you several hours to go the equivalent of what would take, you know, 30, 40, maybe an hour, you know, in America, and it's really sad that you're so far away but you're so close.
Right. In the States it would be like let me just take 20 minutes to go drive out to the mountains or to go see the forest, but over here it's I need the whole day.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if I can invest that much time.
So
No,
like,
but like the shorter destinations you can choose to see.
but I mean, like,
It wouldn't take you a day to be there.
I mean, so Armenia
Like
is the
Garni,
same size.
Yerevan.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even then, it takes an hour sometimes to
Yeah.
get from the center, and it's like not. It's what 20 miles max, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So I don't know what that is in kilometers. Sorry, but yeah.
You know,
So
there's something that I would really change right now about Armenia and about our chauffeur. In particular, is the advertisements. But I'm sorry, I can't.
oh, I thought you were gonna say me being here.
No, not yet. We still have 10 minutes to go, and yes, time flew by really quickly this time again. And we're having a short advertisement, and we'll come back for the last time to discover more of Andrew Mollica. Stay tuned. Yes, we're gonna enjoy the last minutes with our guest. Well, 9 minutes we have. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you hear
So,
me?
yeah, I can-
So
I
can
can-
you hear me?
I can hear you.
So, Rafi, go ahead.
Well,
You
so
have a
as I
question.
guess as we're closing up, you know, let's. It's great to hear the perspective of someone who's chosen to come over here to Armenia, and I'm still curious because we've asked this question several times. We never really clearly got an answer. So, I guess what's the hardest thing or what's most difficult thing about living here in Armenia, and then follow that up with what's one of the best things about being here.
yeah, so I mean, like I was saying before, there's good and bad things about every place, and you have to find it. And if we're talking specifically about Armenia, one of the things that still to this day bothers me a lot are grocery stores or just stores in general, because service is very different, and people don't necessarily like to help in the same way that I'm used to, and those sorts of things. So
As in, customer service does not exist. Yeah.
and customer service is very interesting here because, like, for example, I would go to this little market, like it's like it looks like a train car almost, you know, in front of my apartment, and like the woman would be like, "Hi, how are you? Like, you know, is everything good? Blah blah blah." But then as soon as that's over, she's like, "Osek," and I'm like, "What?" Like, we just turn it like it's we're talking, and then it's business, and then we say bye, and then that's the way it is. And it's when you're doing business in Armenia, like, you are doing business, like, there is nothing else going on, and like, don't get in their way. But going to the store can sometimes be hard, especially when you don't speak the language well. And like, for example, I needed to buy conditioner because I like to condition my hair. Apparently that's a crime in Armenia. At least that's what this woman made me feel like when I was trying to buy it. So I asked my friend from Russia to write conditioner in Russian on my phone and write shampoo and say not shampoo, only conditioner. I didn't want a 2-in-1. I just wanted conditioner. I didn't think it was that hard. So I go into the store with my phone in Russian. I show it to the woman and she reads it and she's very, very confused. And like, I know the Cyrillic alphabet enough, and like shampoo and conditioner actually are like the same words, so it ended up not being too hard. I could read the bottles, and she kept showing me ones with shampoo and conditioner, and I was like, I don't want that. I was like
But most of the time they have it in English written on there. So
this,
you could just...
yeah, I know, but this one, yeah, they didn't. I wasn't gonna take a chance again. Like I bailed too many times on trying to buy this conditioner because I panicked when I saw the Russian and I ran out of the store.
Andrew, when is your birthday? When is your birthday?
February 14th.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, just
And it
passed.
just passed. Are you want to get him conditioner
The
for?
child of love.
I
want
have,
to
and now I
get a
have the bottle.
conditioner.
So when I want it again, I just take it.
So you keep the empty bottle with you.
So I asked her for just conditioner, and she is very confused by me saying just conditioner. And so she's like looking at me really hard, trying to figure out. And we walk over a little bit, and she shows me fabric softener in like a giant bottle. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I want it for my hair. And she's like, but that's for your hair. And I'm like, but I only want the conditioner. And she's like, but this is the conditioner. And I'm like, no, it's not. So finally she's like, we don't have it. Like, it's over. Like, this is done.
Yeah.
And seeing this, another woman walks over and starts yelling at both of us, like not realizing, she starts yelling at me, not realizing I don't speak Armenian, and yelling at the girl, not realizing why we're having such a hard time. And then she's like, he wants this, and she looks at me like I'm insane, like I'm a crazy person, because I want this conditioner.
Why would he want this?
Yeah, and so then
You
she
don't
shows
need it,
to me.
okay?
Yeah.
Just go home.
She shows it to me, but she shows me like the really girly looking ones, and then like looks back at me, and she's like, wait, do you want it for men? And I'm like, of course I want it for men. So she pointed at one. I was so done. I grabbed it and I left. And like those are just the struggles that like I've learned to laugh about, but that do make things very difficult because like buying conditioner from the store shouldn't be so hard.
Right. Does it ever stop you from buying stuff?
Oh yeah, I went like I didn't eat for some times because like I wanted like I was always confused when I first got here about hose being with a h instead of a h.
Mm-hmm.
So one time I said hose, and then I think that the woman knew a little bit of English, so she gave me like the links, which is not what I wanted. But I was too scared to tell her I didn't want it, so I ate them.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the kinds of things like it can get challenging. Now I'm more adventurous and I've learned more and I'll go for it. But yeah, there are still times when I'll not go places because I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
What
So-
about the good thing?
Yeah. So what's
Okay.
the best? What's the
Yeah.
best thing about being here?
I mean, if I'm gonna be a little maybe cliche or whatever, but I would think the best thing about Armenia is that it really like opened my eyes to the world. Like it's my first time leaving the U.S. Through coming to Armenia, I also traveled to Europe. Through coming to Armenia, I met a group of people that are from the entire world, like all over the place. I would have never thought. I've interacted with people who speak all kinds of different languages, which of course you guys know I love. That's what I research. Like I met some very close like friends now that I like. These are gonna be lifelong friends. Like I have an amazing girlfriend who like I met because I came here. Like all of these things. I have a family here now. Like it's hard being away from my own family, but I made these connections and it just really, really changed who I am and helped me realize like, like you kind of just have to like be who you are in some ways and make yourself happy where you are. Like no one's gonna look out for you except for you, and then you can meet the people that you want to spend your time with and share it. And like that's really like it was just a huge like I was so sad after like being in LA and graduating from UCLA, not knowing what I was gonna do and all of these things. And then I came here and it was really hard, but it's been so rewarding. Like it's just that's the best thing. It was just a gift that you couldn't have gotten any other way.
Oh, these
Rafi,
oh yeah. Go ahead.
we forgot to ask one of the most important questions of our show.
Oh.
Do you feel homesick at home?
Yeah. Are you
I
homesick?
thought you were gonna ask me about the crayon.
No.
Well,
Do you know this feeling?
it's an interesting one, and like I'm actually I shouldn't be talking about my girlfriend so much on the show maybe, but she said something to me one time that I like really has stuck with me, and she said like it took a long time for me to realize that home isn't a place, and like that's like the biggest thing for me is like home is where you make it. So like while I do miss things from America, like I wouldn't consider myself homesick, and not anymore. Like I used to miss things. Shout out to Angela, Taco Bell, but like those sorts of things. But like home is where you make it. Like that's just kind of like
So it's a feeling.
yeah,
Inside.
yeah, exactly. Like so, I wouldn't say I'm homesick anywhere. I don't have a home. I know that sounds crazy to say, but like I don't like LA is not my home. I haven't lived in Modesto for 4 years. Like all I have there is like my parents and my brother. And my aunt and uncle, but like and I haven't been there in 4 years. I don't spend time there. Like I don't have anywhere to go back to. Like when I moved to Armenia and I was depressed and I wanted to leave, everyone's like, "Well, go home," and I'm like, "But if I go anywhere, I'm gonna be doing the same thing all over again."
Yeah.
So you just make it where you are, and like if you don't want to be there, then change it and make it somewhere else. But
You're your own home.
It's where you lay your hat down.
Yeah. What's the skirt picture? What's about it?
The skirt picture had to do with my
And
golf
we'll post
coach.
that, by the way. You guys will be able to see the skirt picture we're talking about.
Go ahead and go to our Homesick at Home page, and you can see this famous picture of Andrew.
Yeah, my golf coach said something about me hitting the ball like a girl or something like this. So, and I'm like not a great golfer, but one thing I used to be able to do is I can hit the ball a long ways. Like that's not a skill. Like it's really not that helpful, but it's what I could do, and like that's my one catch. So
brute strength on the golf course. Yeah.
So I wore a skirt and I outdrove everybody, and I was like, "You guys can suck it. I'm in a skirt." And so we had some fun with that. Yeah.
Hey Andrew, actually we had a lot more questions prepared for you, but this time flew by as always.
We've run out of time.
Yeah, we ran
once
out
again.
of time, and I hope you'll pass by next time and we can speak about all the snakes that you, the snake pets that you had.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
my
yeah.
Ball pythons. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more about Andrew. Hope you enjoyed this evening tonight with us.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with you guys.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Rafi and I enjoyed it as well.
It was fantastic, Andrew. It was great getting to hear your story. You know, it was a unique perspective.
And it's always easy to talk about yourself. So it's
Right. and I totally understood 3/4 of it.
we can meet afterwards. I'll get my research paper out.
This was Homesick at Home, our evening English-speaking show. We're on air every Friday night from 9 to 11 with Rafi Petrosyan.
And the lovely Ina MK.
Thank you, Rafi.
Sorry, I was reading something.
And someone new each time. Stay with us and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.